All right, welcome to this edition of the Hoel Roofing and Remodeling Podcast. This week, special guest is Jonathan Jackson with Indiana Metals. So you may ask, why do we have Jonathan here on the podcast? He's a metal supplier that we use, and I look up to him. He's running a family business. Got a little one, a little girl that you said will turn 4 here
in August, yeah.
And his wife works with him, and I know the challenges and the joys of that. So, Jonathan, introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Bob hit it on the head. My name is Jonathan Jackson. We run Indiana Metal, and we're over in Bainbridge, Indiana. Picked up Bob as a customer here, and now all we need to do is service him because he's moving so much metal. So it's been pretty nice. He asked me to be on the podcast, and I'm elated to be here.
Awesome. So let's just dive in. And you actually started more on the contracting side. And why did you transition into metal? Did you try to do contracting and a metal supplier at the same time, or like
we didn't? No. Okay. We did have them set up. So I started off just like everybody in the industry, sold some roofs, installed for a long time, worked with a local company, ended up branching off on my own, just about like everybody. I ran that for a long time and emphasized in commercial and metal work. As we kind of grew, things were growing more than what I could handle. Got an offer to kind of move out of that side of the business and took it. In the meantime, we were working on Indiana Metal, so once we got that offer to get out of the contracting side, we pushed Indiana Metal a lot harder. We were already making some product for ourselves anyway, so we just kind of really effortlessly seemed on over to it, and then it's just been growing ever since.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's one challenge I see, in small business where guys want to do, a guy like me wants to start his own metal shop too, and then he's not focusing on roofing. And I'm not saying I'm doing that because I've got enough headaches.
Yeah, we can't have that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's respectful, and it's probably a reason why you've been successful, just because you have focus on on the metal shop, because you guys are growing. You've got a lot of good resources that you're a really good resource. I always say this, kind of like one reason I really appreciate you is you're always willing to answer any of our questions, but it's kind of like in my world, we're sales reps. Like, we try to spend so much time educating them so they actually understand what they're selling, instead of just throwing a number out there and then selling a job, and then we have no idea what the hell's going on, where I really want my guys to go in there and educate. And that's one thing that my wife, especially with being on the production side, she apprecites being able to shoot you a text.
She's sharp. Yeah, she's sharp. That's one thing that we really try to push is the education side of metal. I don't think a lot of shingle guys realize how knowledgeable they are. They actually know a ton. And they know very little about metal sometimes. And so if we can educate them, they can be great installers. They just need to take a little time to learn, which is, why you guys kind of have a one-up. You're constantly learning, evolving, taking advantage of resources, and, the fruits of your labors are showing.
Yep.
It's been good. Really enjoyed having you so far.
So let's talk about some challenges working with your wife, running the family business, the growth aspect, because every freaking time I talk to you, you're working, you're pulling an all-nighter, or you're either there till midnight, 2 o'clock, and you just told me that you worked till 3 o'clock this morning. So
I work a lot, yeah. Well, the beautiful thing about my wife and I's work relationship is we actually never see each other. So we can go a whole day, and it's almost like we work 2 different places. She handles a lot of back end, the growth, advertising, the financial side of it, and I just deal with making sure product goes out, any equipment issues, install stuff. I do some deliveries. I do a lot of deliveries, and I stay over and make sure that if we have a hiccup, that stuff still meets production deadlines. So yesterday we had a machine go down. We have a great company called Hershey's Metalmeister out of Illinois that services us. They came out, they spent all day, they kicked it, they got it all good, but we weren't able to start any production until 5 o'clock. And so we ran to whatever it took to make sure that all of our deliveries went out this morning, and that's what I did. I've got an awesome group of guys, and I just don't want to push them that hard. So as we're growing, I just pick up the slack with where we need it. But as far as the relationship with my wife, man, I hardly ever see her. I've talked to her one time today, and it had nothing to do with work. So, yeah, it's pretty easy on that aspect. I'm blessed there.
Well, we won't tell my wife that, because I'm always walking back to her office saying, hey, what the hell's going on here? And she's like, you stress me out. And I'm like, no, you choose to be stressed out when I walk in the office. Yeah. But, that's
You know what? I lied a little bit about that. I went in yesterday and we were out of candy, and I got really upset about that. Like, I went to her and said, "Hey, where's the candy? Like, why do we not have candy?" And it was handled. I had candy like 2 hours later. Yeah, so it worked.
Well, you won't. She won't make that mistake again.
No. We got that handled. A little employee write-up possibly on the backside. I'm not sure.
So you handle all the production side. So you guys just you do standard ag panel, you do standing seam, and then you do, or more of a snap lock, and then you do a traditional like commercial standing seam. Are your three main panels?
So we do. We do the very popular 29 gauge screw down. We do the 26 gauge R panel, which is pretty popular with some light commercial. We have 3 different types of standing seam: the 1.5 inch fastener flange that you're real familiar with. We have an 1.75 inch that's more of a commercial aspect, and then we have a low slope 2 inch that's pretty much almost all commercial. And we make a lot of different variations of those things, but those are our main pushes.
So on the standing seam, I know you rent the snap lock machine out, or drop them off to the contractor's job site. Is that the only mobile?
All of our standing seam would be mobile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're looking to add more machines all the time, but right now I've got 2 on order and just waiting the game.
Right.
Equipment, just like every industry, you can't hardly get it.
What's the timeline on getting?
6 to 9 months.
Okay.
My experience is they tell you 6 and you should expect 9.
Right.
So it's somewhere in between there. And
I didn't know if it was getting any better, because we have noticed some stuff on our end that's the time frame is shortening now that we're
equipment is.
Yeah.
It was a year, so
Okay.
we're doing better, but it's still quite a bit out and a lot of demand for it. And the used market, what's coming on, is so beat up it's hardly worth dealing with. So everybody's going new for the most part.
So tell me, one thing that I'd talk about is you guys got a pretty cool metal brake that I've seen some videos about, and you'd shared with me. Did you get it last year, maybe?
I think it's 2 years old at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called a Vario bend, and it's sold by Hershey's. They're out of Mattoon, Illinois. It folds from the top and the bottom. It's 100% automated, and it's a workhorse. I mean, that thing runs 8 hours a day at the bare minimum, and there's days we put 20, 24 hours on it if we have to, and that's kind of the backbone of our operation. It doesn't matter if we have any panels going out if we don't have any trim to back it up, and it's incredibly accurate. It's quick. It's one of our better purchases at this point.
All right. Now
everybody's got something they bought that they're so happy they bought, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of ours. How about you? What have you bought that's been great for this place?
Man, now you're going to put me on the spot. And here I was getting ready to ask you the opposite question of, what have you bought that's been bad? I mean, for me, we just always seem to buy like dump trailers. I did buy an Equipter.
I saw that outside, yeah.
And that, I literally was just talking to a crew, and we were talking about it, and it's nice, especially out here. You don't know how many times we rip into a roof that's 4 layers and then a layer of wood shake. And like my main crew, whenever he pulled up and he saw that, like it was like, our 4-year-old girls on like Christmas morning when they get Barbies or something. Like he was so excited. So the Equipter for sure. I'm a bargain hunter, so I bought it. A guy that was going bankrupt, and it didn't have hardly any hours on it. So yeah, the Equipter is probably the one thing. But trailers in general, like it seems like every time I buy one, I'm like, do I need another one? And then it's like, man, that came in handy, having that. So,
right.
But yeah, the Equipter, which is way less expensive than
it's all relative.
It's
just one big line of revolving credit is all we're working on over here. But the Equipter keeps your job sites a lot cleaner too, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's good.
Well, and it's nice. The other day they were doing a metal job, and it was a 2-story, and they were sliding some of the panels in there and lifting it up, so they weren't even using it for the tear off as much as the putback. But I mean, you were an installer. You had installers like them are the backbone of your company.
Oh, yeah.
So
anything to make their lives easier.
Yeah, I'm like, well, you guys want the Equipter? Perfect. There's mornings that I just hook it up, or evenings I hook it up to my truck and I run it out first thing in the morning, because I'm like, if the guys need it, like if somebody's got to get it out there, I'll get it out there to them. So
yeah. Well, you were getting ready to ask me what I've regretted buying. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I try to forget most of it. There's probably a big pile out back that's stuff I've regretted. I'm trying to think of the worst one. I mean, I could list a lot of stuff, different cheap roll formers. Like I bought several off eBay, where I'm like, hey, that's a good deal, and it gets out here and it's junk. It's not even worth the scrap value that it brings it. As far as like bad, probably I bought a gutter helmet making machine thinking we'd make our own gutter helmets. And that thing was awful. And now we've cannibalized it completely, and it vents a Z-bar. So I spent like an ungodly amount of money to do something that could have done it for like $3,000, and I've probably got 30 in that whole thing. And it's just, that was a bad one. A couple forklifts that I bought cheap. Stuff like that for us, it's almost always cheaper to buy it new.
Yeah.
Over the long term, then you get a cheap forklift, and I had one, excuse me, last year, lost a motor. We put a new motor in it, lost it again, got another new motor in it, and then Jenna told me at one point how much money we had in that forklift, and I probably could have had like 1.5 new ones, and it's just, those are just bad investments. Like, we're just better off to buy new.
I bought a used forklift, and it's been good, knock on wood, which we're not using ours near like you are. But I sent my brother to go look at it, and I was like, it was a $5,000 Toyota forklift. Yeah. So I was like, if it runs, it's worth it,
They're great to have.
Yeah, but what he didn't tell me was there was like no brakes on it. So he goes, he tells the guy he'll take it, and the guy was like real anal, like you can't be there until like 3:30 to look at it. And I was like, my brother was over that away, and he could look at it as early as like 2:30. I'm like, the truck's logoed up, like it's obvious who we are. And he's like, I got neighbors that'll shoot you, like. And I'm just like, okay. So he literally had to sit down the road for an hour and do nothing. And then he told the guy, he's like, oh, we'll take it. And the guy's like, I'll just bring it out to you on a tilt bed because they're hard to haul around. And I've got 4 dump trailers, but like I don't think you could really load a fork truck very safely in a dump trailer. So he's like, if you give me my asking price, I'll just bring it out to you. I was like, perfect. So he sent one of his guys out there with it. His guy unloaded it and parked it in the shop for me. And later on, like I jumped on it to do something, and I went to hit the brake, and there's brakes there, but it's like driving your dad's 1987 truck. Like we're used to the trucks that we drive every day. You touch the brake, it stops. And I told my brother, I was like, hey, next time warn me, because if I would have been like pulling up to my wife's truck and I would have smashed the back end of that, I said it would have been ugly for somebody for a couple of days around here. So, but yeah, knock on wood, that fork truck, it's doing what I need it to do. Now, I bought new tires for that thing.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
Tires are rough. I always hate when we get tires. We've got a great kid. He does mobile tire changes. And I'm pretty sure I keep him in business. Like between trailers, trucks, forklifts, everything, it seems like he's always in and out. I see his big trailer there, Mobile Tire Express, and he's always got a huge smile on his face. And I'm like, man, this kid's got the gravy train.
Yeah, I was going to say, he sees your wife, he's got your wife's number on speed dial.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, yeah, another one. Tire's junk. Let's put a new tire on this one. And I do have one that was really close to my worst ever. When we got started, I bought a fairly cheap ag panel machine. It was slow. It was a good machine, but it was slow, and it just couldn't keep up with our production. And I located a used one out in North Carolina. And I really like moving and rigging equipment. I think it's kind of a neat thing, and I'm not a professional by any means, but I worked a deal to go out there in North Carolina, get this machine, unhook it from their facility, rig it all up, put it on a semi, bring it back. It took me 3 trips to North Carolina. The final trip, I had to drive out there, meet a semi, put it on the semi, load up the rest of the electrical gear, race back to my shop to meet the semi to get it unloaded and installed. So when I unhooked it from their shop, it was all 480, and I had all this wiring, that I had to unhook and label, and I did my best to be safe with it and no issues, but I brought it back, and we spent a lot of money on it, and my electrician came out to wire it up, and that night my wife wanted to see it. She had my daughter with her, and our daughter with her, and these guys are wiring it, and it's like 9 o'clock on a Friday, and I'm just so excited. I just spent this huge lump sum of money, and I'd spent all this time driving back and forth, and we're going to have a machine that's really going to increase production, and they have these big cabinets on the front of them where all the electrical goes into. My electrician wires it all up. It's him and his 2 guys. It's dark outside, and all the doors are open in my shop, and my wife and daughter to my left, and they say, hey, we're going to throw power to it and test it, you know. So they throw power to it, and it makes this bang. This whole arc of electricity goes across it. It blows the cabinet doors open and shoots all the electrical parts out of the cabinet. And it kills all the lights. The electricians scream. I stand there and never make a word, you know, because I'm just like gutted at this point. My wife never makes a word. They turn their flashlights on, they get the breaker on, put the power back in the shop, and they're like freaking out, you know. And Jenna and I are standing there, and Jenna says, well, I'm going home. I'll see you later. And she leaves. And the electrician says, what the hell have you done to her? That, like, this is normal life for you guys. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But it ended up, there was just a wire crossed, and it was like $150, and we got it running again. But that was almost my worst ever buy. And
Pretty much, I'm to the point that I just laugh. Like, I've got other buddies, I got a lot of buddies that own roofing companies, and like some days it feels good hearing about their problems because like you appreciate yours better. But the other day I was talking to one, and the guy's going through a little bit of a hard time, and I just laughed. I said, man, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you, I'm just kind of laughing with you, because that's just, I mean, I grew up with a dad that just got pissed off and screamed and yelled about everything, and like, and really at the end of the day it's it's happened, so like you can either laugh about it and just, you know, not make the same mistake. Like, now if you buy like 4 cheap ones off of eBay in a row, you eventually kind of get what you got coming, you know.
That was one thing when I was roofing. I always thought, like, man, these terrible things happen, you know, on these job sites. And then I never had a death or anyone get seriously hurt or any real problems. But to me back then, you know, you tarp a roof because you get caught in a rainstorm and it leaks a little bit. It's something, part of the business, you know. But it bothered me so much. And now that I talk to so many different roofers, I see really bad things that happen to a guy. And I had one come across my desk last week. They roof loaded shingles on a little barn, and it collapsed the whole barn in. So now they're going to rebuild this guy's barn. And like, man, I'm really happy that that's not my problem right now.
So I've got a friend, and he was telling a story one time, and he knew a guy that owned like a closing title company. And there's a lot of fraud when there's house closings, and where people like they'll email and be like, hey Jonathan, congratulations on closing on 123 North ABC Street, whatever. Here's your wiring instructions, and it'll look very similar to the wiring instructions you're supposed to get. This guy wired $1 million and $1 million to the wrong, like it was somebody that worked, and like it was some overseas account that once it was gone.
And there's no insurance on anything like that, right? Like, it's just gone.
It was gone. And there was no tracing it. There's no getting it back. So he always says, no matter how bad a day he has, every once in a while he says, I didn't lose $1 million today. So
Jeez, Pete. Yeah, there's way worse things that can happen to you than what we typically or ever really deal with in this business. But sometimes the little stuff really seems like it's end of the world, at least on my end.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's, you know, it's, yeah. Like you said, you've got to you just got to deal with it, and you just realize that, you know, unfortunately that guy's got to rebuild that barn, you know.
And he's going to do it. He's going to do a good job. And like, he's really, I mean, you know how it is. Mistakes happen. It's how you handle them and pushing through with them. And that's how, honestly, in my opinion, the best companies grow. You know, people know Hoel roofing always makes it right. And that's what carries the reputation along with it. Keeps employees here for so long.
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing that I always tell the team. Like, you guys will see us, you know, do it right. Like, we've had to go back and redo stuff, and it's you just got to go back. Like, some days you want to like beat your head against the wall, and you know that's one reason that I'm so loyal to our main roofing crew. Like, if there's a problem, like he goes back and fixes it. And I've been around crews where it's like, nope, not doing that. It's like, wait a second, you know, but. Yeah. So what kind of hobbies do you have?
Well, I work a lot, which is a problem. But when I can get away, I've been racing downhill mountain bikes now for a few years. So I just went out to West Virginia actually and raced out there 3 weeks ago, snowshoe. Did okay. I'd like to do it a lot more, but that's pretty much all I get to make time for. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have more time, but it's coming. You know, we're getting better and better about not having to work that much. But it is what it is. How about you? I mean, do you get any free time or?
No, my wife says that I enjoy work way too much. I am part of that mastermind group Revolt, so that's been good for me to get away and get on a couple trips a year. We got you got youngin. I've got young kids. Like I would rather just enjoy outside of work. I just enjoy the time with them because I know that mine are 4, 6, and 8. And before I know it, they're going to be out of the house and stupid roofing business.
I saw your 8-year-old getting ready to drive off out there. He's going to be ready to go when he's 16 for sure.
It's funny. One of them the other day said that they're moving out when they're 18. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see when you turn 18 how gung-ho you are about, wanting to move out. So
it'll probably be like when I moved out and I got my first little 1-bedroom apartment. And I'm like, man, I'd really like to go home again. It's like this isn't what I thought it'd be.
So my dad, he didn't make any. I love my dad. He didn't make anything easy on us, and I actually wanted to get the hell out of the house. Like I stayed there. I went to college for 2 years. And I practically slept there for 2 years, but I was working full time, going to school full time. So literally, I hardly even ate food there. But yeah, I wanted to get out, and that was this. But he kind of beat it in my head that I was going to move out and go out on my own. So I guess it was kind of ingrained that I was just going to do that. So and I don't want to enable my kids either. Like when it's time for them to fly the coop, they do need to know that shut the damn shut the light off because the electricity bill goes up or whatever like that, But
well, it's hard to want to do a little better for them and not spoil them at the same time, and make it too easy to where they don't want to work. To get that drive. And
well, especially with us having some girls in the mix there, there's just for me, it's that's my little girl. You hurt her. There's things that you may need to bail me out of jail for, Jonathan. You hurt my little girl.
Make the call.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so much easier to be hard on my son, and then
you yelling at him when they mess up.
Yeah. It's like, come here, Riley. I love you, Riley. Come here, honey. Are you okay? But yeah, absolutely. So, but you've got the girl. So
and she's crazy. She's got my wife's she's very beautiful. She's very into pretty things, girly stuff. She's got my wife's pain tolerance, which is next to nothing, and then has my lack of care. So she'll just. I told the story the other day. We went to race downhill mountain bikes in Tennessee. Got a little hotel room, and she climbed on top of the dresser and went to jump from the dresser to the bed, except it was a 10-foot spread. So she just face planted on the floor, spread eagle on the floor and just screamed for hours, I was like, why did you do that? No sense at all. But, hey, that's her, I guess.
So it's funny. So my son, yesterday, he was out in the shop messing around, and he started crying. I'm like, get up. And I was like, that stuff that you put there that I told you not to, pick it up. And, he's crying, and he's, picking the stuff up. And then my youngest one, little Riley, my little blonde girl, the other day, she's running just full board and just flat face plants, and she gets up, and the tears are ready to roll out, and she's like, I'm okay, Dad. Dad, I'm okay. And I'm like, come here, Ryan. It's okay to cry. You can cry here. So, yeah, where my son, he's yelling, making a big to-do about it. Riley's just trying to be tough, and, and it's funny because, we live in such a crazy world right now with, kids being kids and boys being boys and girls being girls. Mm-hmm. And my daughters, they love Barbies. There was Barbies strung out in the shop, and my boy, he just loves being adventurous, climbing over things, shooting. Surprised he didn't shoot you with a Nerf gun yet. He's just always doing that kind of thing. And and that's why, for us, that's why they're here. We work a lot, but I want to be around them, and I want, our company's not as big as maybe as it could be, because they're here, and sometimes I'm yelling at them and I'm picking up after them, and the team has to be like, hey, get out of the way, we got to have this meeting, guys. But for me, I've always said I want a successful family over a successful business,
right?
And I want to teach them, but I want them, as you said, it's so hard, you want to spoil them, but you also want to teach them the value of hard work, and I want them to remember the long days, the long nights when we're on a trip or something, you know, and like you said, your daughter sent you a message earlier that said, you know, am I going to see you home tonight, Daddy? You know.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
And then tonight when you think about staying late, you're going to look at that damn phone.
Not staying late tonight. I want to go home. But, you know, you talk about hard work, and I had another acquaintance from an equipment company. He told me his kids were wanting to come work in that company, and he was like, you need to go work somewhere else before you can come here. And so then they were all like, we'll go start our own businesses. And he said, man, this day and age, like if you can just work hard, you're gonna have it 95% better than anybody else. And he's like, don't start the company. It's not hardly even worth it anymore. You know, all the red tape and everything. He's like, just work hard, show up on time, be a good person. You're gonna be wildly successful in life. And I thought, man, it's pretty on point, really. You know, it's hard to find people with those mentalities anymore. And I know you're very aware of that.
Well, we actually just went down and did a Decatur County did a opportunity fair, I think they called it, for the seniors, and I had a chance to talk for a couple minutes, and I just grabbed the phone and said, guys, these are a beautiful thing. Like, they helped me run a multi-million-dollar business, but I was like, put the dumb things down and look people in the eyes and shake their hands.
Yeah.
And I was like, and do what you say you're going to do. Like, the guys, the team is
very rare right there.
The team is probably tired of hearing me saying this. One thing that I've been saying lately is do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Like, and another thing that we're really working on.
You can't not succeed if you do that.
Right.
Yeah, if you do those things, like, you're going to be fine in life. You'll be fine. Like, good. You'll have a good life, you know.
And, like, another thing is, like, something we talk about a lot is clear, specific communication. Like, because, like, there's this, and there's too many times I'm bad at, like, I mean, I swear I said that, but maybe I didn't.
Running all over the place.
I messed up the other day, and there was, speaking of working hard, if you heard that noise, that is my son outside the window, and he's weed eating around the building.
Yeah, you going to give him a nickel or something?
No, he found 30 cents in that transit van he brought.
Yeah, I probably left some more than that. You just look around pretty hard.
So, funny thing about him is, I told him, I just got one of them battery-powered, like, DeWalt weed eaters, and I always like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Oh my gosh.
They're great.
They're so handy, especially, like, now my wife tried to use it around our place, and she's like, there's way too much there, but around the shop, and he came back in last week, and he's like, Dad, next time I think I'm gonna wear pants, because them rocks were flipping up. But he's persistent. Like, he's still out there doing it. And I know he doesn't have pants on today, so he's got shorts on if you're wondering. So
that's awesome. Yeah, he's working hard. He's gonna kill that battery pretty quick, but he's doing a good job. He's young. He's learning, you know? Yeah,
like something like that. I want to go wring his neck because I'm trying to shoot a podcast.
Yeah, you need to go get him another weed eater and a mower and just let him go around here and make some money, some ice cream money.
Yes, absolutely. But, what we need to do, if I can talk my wife into it and you can talk your wife into it, we need to get the wives to come here and do a podcast together, because that would be way out of my wife's comfort zone. But the most watched one that we've had is the one that me and my wife did, just kind of talking about, like, why we started it.
So my wife had some stuff to do today, but we did a podcast with Metal Roofing Coffee Shop, if you've ever heard of them.
I have not.
She was all into that. She was bummed she couldn't come along, and I was like, hey, I mean, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, she'd be pumped.
Yeah, Emily's going to be real happy with me. So, no, she's awesome. I mean, when that's one thing, my wife is so used to, like, me being the face of it and, you know, me being the visionary that sometimes I tell her, like, people expect me to talk, but when she talks, people really, like, they listen a hell of a lot more than that.
That's funny you say that, because we're the exact opposite. If you don't know me previously, you'd probably not even know. Like, you'd probably think that's the guy that works in the shop, you know what I mean? Or he's the delivery driver that brought my package. But Jenna and another girl named Sarah do a lot of social media stuff, and I'm hardly ever on any of it, and she loves doing it, and it works. I mean, they've done an awesome job with it. I could not believe when Jenna decided to take that avenue and increasing business through that. I thought it was a joke, and it's been a huge help to us. And we did a video the other day about a pole barn special, and it's got, I think, almost 1 million views.
Wow.
And I can't even fathom that, you know.
Right.
Like, I'd still have an ad in a newspaper.
So that's funny you'd say that, because the first TikTok that I did, because I didn't know what TikTok was, I was dumping a load at the dump, and it was from a flip house. and I just put dumping a load of Biden, and this was a couple years ago, and it got like 400,000 views, and like that's all good. The hate, like, oh, you suck, you're retarded, F you, and I was just like, I'm just laughing, which didn't benefit me any of my business at all. So hopefully Adam's taking some notes there, so he does a lot of our media stuff. But yeah, no, that's cool. And plus, one thing I always say is like, they would rather see our pretty wives on a video than long. Us.
Yeah,
like, you know,
yeah,
so
I've got nothing to add. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I get calls from some of our suppliers, and they'll be like, hey, you know, do some of those TikToks and like make them more educational. Like, you know, do something like that's unfortunately that's not really what a whole lot of people want. Like we've got plenty of stuff for that, you know, but we're just trying to raise some awareness that we're around, you know, and just meet some new people and get our foot in the door. And at that point, we've got plenty of stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, it's usually some silly dance video or something an employee has done or advertising a sale or something like that. And except they do it in a way that's a lot more entertaining than if I just got on there and I said, hey, we're selling a pole barn for 10. Let us know if we can help.
What do you guys go into Illinois much?
A little bit, yeah. We have a few good customers out there. I'd say at least a few times a week.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a different market. Everything's licensed over there.
Okay.
It seems like it's a little harder to have a business over there. You know, it takes a little bit more legwork, as you're aware. It's fairly easy to get going in Indiana.
Right.
But yeah, we get out there a little bit. It's all right.
I just didn't know how close you were to the Illinois line. If
we're about 45 minutes.
Okay.
But like I said, we have a few good customers over there. The majority of our business is actually out towards your way, central Indiana. We've got a decent client base north of Indianapolis a little bit, and then we send a lot to the Carmel Fishers area.
Yep.
A lot of new construction porches going on up there.
Yep.
And then we've always got our out-of-state stuff. It seems like we're always shipping something to who knows where. We went to Minnesota last week. Last year, I think we did 10 semi-trucks to Louisiana for a school corporation. So there's always something odd like that. I kind of like them. They're interesting.
Right. So was that more of a commercial grade standing seam that went the...
It's usually just... it's always an acquaintance I know that's gotten in on it. So, for instance, you know, say you needed to move to Louisiana and you just happen to get in on a project, and you might call me up and say, hey, I know it's kind of a long shot, but something fell through. Can you help us out? And that's usually how we get in on it. And then if it goes really well, then we might get more off that contractor. And in the Louisiana case, we've done more with him in different states. So it's always interesting. I've got a few sub crews that just travel, and they're always getting me onto something odd.
Right. Well, and that's one thing in metal that we've ran into here lately. Like, there's so many different panels, and it's especially here lately. We ran into like 2 or 3 different ones, and I'm starting to be versed enough to know like that one there. I knew exactly who to text, and they had it. Mm-hmm. And I knew you guys didn't. I didn't even start with you. I was going to go to you if they didn't, and I knew, and I told the guys, I'm like, that's more of a commercial. Grade this, and then sure enough, they're like, "Yep, that's what it was." And it's just from being around it. But there's so many different panels, and I haven't seen that many different panels. But I'm sure you've really seen some.
Metal's kind of been like a Wild West almost. You know, there were a lot of roll formers that made specialty panels, or a guy would say, "Hey, I want to take this panel and make this change to make it my own," you know, and then he'll get, 1,000 buildings out there in the course of his lifetime, and then he goes away, or the machine breaks down, he decides not to fix it. Next thing you know, that panel's gone. There's a ton of stuff like that. One nice thing we can do with our folder is we can actually copy a lot of those panels. So that's been pretty cool for us. But I have, like you said, through experience, I'm at the point now where I can say, oh, hey, that's so-and-so's old machine, and that machine might be over here now. Let's try calling them. And there's still a few old school guys left in the area that I call on, and I'm like, hey, Rich Paul's one of them. I'll be like, Rich knows everybody. Like, hey, Rich, what's this? And 30 minutes later, I've got 3 guys that may own that machine now, and I can call 3 of them and usually track it down.
Right.
But when guys like him pass or quit answering calls, it's going to be harder to track that stuff down and figure out where it is. And
well, you say that about your your bender, your brake. I watched one of your guys' videos that you guys bent like a commercial grade like R panel or something, and that was. I just watched it like 3 times. It's like, wow, that's pretty badass.
It's always cool from a production standpoint and efficiency wise. Like, it's not a great deal, you know.
Right.
But if it's got to happen, we make it happen.
Right,
and,
right.
I would much prefer to roll form all of our panels, but sometimes people come to us and they're like, it has to be this, it has to be this way, and usually those jobs are 3 to 10 panels tops.
Right,
It's
right.
not that big a deal.
It's not. It's like repairs with us. Like, it's usually never worth really doing, but it's like you help somebody out. You never know how it's going to come back around. I just had this conversation with my sales manager about repairs and stuff, because a third of them always turn into something way bigger. One thing we're starting to see is, 7, 8, 10-year-old metal roofs that were just laid right over shingles, and the screws weren't into anything solid, and now they're leaking. And now somebody wants us to come and change one panel, and I'm like, well, the problem with that is if there's nothing underneath there solid to screw into, we got to tear everything off, put some solid wood down, and then, screw into it. So, yeah, absolutely.
I've got a good customer. You talk about repairs, and his business model is that he basically he does a lot of repairs, and he doesn't expect to get any real work off a customer for 1 to 2 years. So he's got a pipeline of these large commercial buildings that he's going out and doing one panel, fixing some coping, whatever, and waiting for them to need more, and they're the first person he calls, and they're always happy because he did a good job, and he's constantly doing big roofs along with repairs, and it's a great business model for him. And the repair thing may not be making him a lot of money, but building up that pipeline has been very profitable.
Well, and it's the book by Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game. Like, are you short term? Are you looking? And that's another thing that I really try to drive home to the sales reps. Like, take care of that person like today on like what they need today. Like, don't try to sell them something they don't need right now, because I guarantee you they're going to refer you back. Like, one of my guys, he sold a lady a roof, and she was so happy. Like, she had coffee and cookies ready the next morning. So when he went to pick up the final check, he had to sit there and have coffee and cookies with an 80-year-old lady. But I was like, man, you probably just sold 5 more jobs by just hanging out with her, taking care of her. So
Well, and you talk about selling them what they need. We would love for everyone to have a metal roof, but it doesn't always fit that package. But what we have found is guys that are versatile. They can pitch everything, fine tune the roof system to what the actual owner needs. They sell more jobs. They look more knowledgeable. They have a greater ability to close that and make more money. So just learning more systems like that and catering to what the customer actually needs is a really good way to get through that and make more money, in my opinion.
One question for you. Do you guys do any other siding panels besides the traditional 29 gauge ag panel?
So we make a board and batten.
Okay.
We make several flush front options, and then we've got a lot of custom profiles people have dreamed up that we've pushed out, but mostly just board and batten and flush front. And so that the flush front would almost look the exact opposite of a board and batten. It would be one raised panel, and then where they interlock, you just have that gap right there. It's actually my favorite panel. If you've been to our office, it's what all of our desks are in the front there.
Okay.
It's just a 12-inch wide panel, and I mean, we can make it wider, it's narrower, but I think it looks classy. It kind of looks like the front of those commercial gas stations or a car dealership.
Huh. I was just there 2 weeks ago, and I didn't pay a lick attention to that. We did a big barn job up in Zionsville last year, the year before. How long have you been making the board and batten panel?
We really just started advertising it this year, but I guess we've been making it 3 or 4 years.
Okay, because now I feel bad because I didn't even ask you about it. So
it happens.
No, that's actually something that I've been telling the guys, especially out here in the rural market. People were starting to ask for the board and batten more, and I'm like, make sure they realize that there's a metal option. It's not.
And we have a wood grain paint coming.
Okay.
So we can get some wood grain options that look really nice. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. We had some come in the other day. Made it, sent it out, and it looked good.
Nice.
It's really, really elegant. You say wood grain, and I figured it would look like fake wood. But it's much more detailed. Like, it looks good.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Have you ever heard? I'm sure you've heard of Quality Edge. I know they make some stuff like that. The sales rep, he actually retired, but I used to have a really good relationship with that sales rep, and I did sell some regular vertical siding of a project over in Richmond that was steel. They called it.
I'm trying to think. I knew a sales rep over there. I can't think of his name, but that's a really nice company. Like, they do a good job, and there's a lot of good companies around Indiana.
Yeah,
honestly.
they were they out of Pennsylvania? Was that their main?
I thought they had an office here.
Their
main hub may have been out of Pennsylvania.
This particular rep lived in Louisville. His name was Tom Miller.
Okay.
And that's another thing is I'm starting to see some companies come out with metal siding for your traditional looking vinyl siding where it's Dutch lap double 4 or straight double 5 and stuff like that. So
there's been roll forming machines for that out for quite a while. I've actually never installed any of that. I've seen it up, and it looks good. But I don't really have any experience with it, unfortunately. I've done almost everything else, and I've never messed with any of that stuff. And I'd like to, just so I could complete my portfolio a little bit more, But I think the last new thing I did was last year, I got a chance to work with some guys on a Decra, like a metal tile.
Yep.
And on a batten system.
Okay.
And that was pretty neat. That's a good product. I like the way it looked when it was done, and Decra makes a good product too. And that stone-coated shingles, those are tough.
Right. Any desire to make stone-coated shingles out of Indiana Metals factory?
No, I don't think so. I think Decra's got a good product. I don't really want to go compete with them any. And there's a lot to that, to get them all adhered right and to get everything done. And I think we'll stick in our lane and just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, talking about installation nightmare, huh?
Yeah.
You don't want to train for that, so.
It's the first Decra roof I ever did. I was real lucky the rep came out and he got us going, Man, if he wouldn't have came out, I think I could have had a nightmare on my hands. I was very thankful for that guy.
Absolutely. Anything new and exciting, anything else new and exciting coming out of Indiana Metals that you can tell us about?
Really, just our Sherwin-Williams partnership is probably the biggest thing. We've got Metal View, which is a new way to estimate off Eagle View. It's a partnership through them. The ability to quote a lot quicker and then build panel cut list. And then really we've upgraded our steel thickness a little bit more, so we're running quite a bit thicker than we had been in the past. We got a good panel running. And then probably the next big thing will just be the onboarding of more stock 24 gauge. So we're going to have more and more 24 gauge in stock all the time. Other than that, we're just going to constantly keep trying to improve the basics, getting lead times down, getting shipments out quicker, turning quotes quicker. I mean, same stuff everybody's working on, right? Just take everything and make it better.
Absolutely. How many sales guys you got?
I have 2 sales guys right now. And they are overworked. They're just killing it.
Yep.
And then we've got, I think we've got 10 in the shop, and then we've got 3 more up in the office. So it's a pretty full house out there.
Nice.
Might be surpassing you almost.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of guys running around.
Yeah, too many. Some days I think we're at 14. So yeah, you're surpassed me. That includes me and Emily. So on the weekly pays, let's put it that way.
Yeah, every now and then. We'll get maybe like a temp guy or something to help us out during busy season. I always feel terrible because I've prided myself in knowing everyone's name, and I'll walk out there and A, I didn't even know he was going to be there, and B, I don't know him, and I'm like, I got to make myself scared, so I can't call this guy the wrong name or something. Got to wait till the next day to ask somebody else, and feel terrible about it. It's good though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Keep growing and doing our best.
Absolutely. All right. As we wrap this up, any words of wisdom, anyway, or let people know how they can get a hold of you if they're a contractor looking for a metal supplier that we can help you out any.
Yeah, it's just www.indianametal.com, and our phone number is 765-721-6485. And just give us a call, and we'll get you taken care of.
Thanks so much for taking the time today to listen to this, guys. And go check out Indiana Metals. And if you can ever be of any help, reach out to Jonathan. He's a full book of knowledge and can really help you out.